What's up and welcome back to the Kinda Funny Gamescast live for Monday, March 24th, 2025. Of course, I am your host, Tim Geddes. I'm joined today by Blessing Adeoye Jr.
Good day, Tim.
And happy blood-born anniversary to the man himself, Andy Cortez. 10 years.
10 years.
10 years of memories.
10 years I was watching other people play it.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't really know much
10
about
years
it.
ago, I was watching the trailer and being like, that looks really cool. And that's about it. That really looks really cool. I hope those people are happy.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we became those
You
people.
were watching other people play it, Andy, and then you've played it, and then you played it in 60 frames per second with people watching you. Like,
Yeah.
that's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah,
Full circle moment.
It is a big full circle moment, yeah. Spending a lot of money on that modded PS5, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
It was worth seeing all them frames.
Yeah, one day they'll do what your shirt demands.
One day. Remaster it.
Oh, man. Bless, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm just chilling. Ready to talk about some Kazan.
First Berserker Kazan.
First Berserker. I got a lot to say.
Yeah, I'm excited to
But
hear
also
it.
somehow at the same time, not a lot to say.
Oh, very interested in
get
what
there.
that could possibly mean, because this is Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every weekday we get together to talk all about video games, whether it's reviews, previews, reviews so far, which I get the impression this is going to be, or predictions and everything else you need to know under the video game sun. This is where you want to be. We're live on Twitch and YouTube. You could watch later on YouTube. If you want to be super freaking cool, you can even become a Kind of Funny member. You can do that on Patreon, YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts, and it gets you the shows ad-free, and you get a daily exclusive Gregway. Today's is Nick and Roger. Interesting. What are they going to do
They're
together?
just hanging out.
They're just hanging out. The combo of Nick and Roger is dangerous and powerful. You know? I feel like
Have
they're
we
going to
seen
be...
it?
Yeah.
Just those two.
Oh, yeah. It's never on camera. Well, I guess maybe the Cinetune Nerdle stuff, but it's more just off
Well,
camera.
that's Joey with them too.
What did you say?
No, nothing.
Oh, I thought you said you corrected something I said. I was like, fuck, what? Am I getting that name wrong?
No.
Good. But anyway, yeah, Raj and Nick, there was like an uneasy alliance. You
There's
know,
an energy.
we can't trust him. I'm telling you that now.
That's what I want with Nick.
Yeah,
I see Nick and
you're
I'm
so
like,
desperate for it. You just got to make it happen, man.
yeah, but like,
He
he's
wants
too-
it too.
He's too cool.
I say you're
he
too
wants it
desperate.
so
He's
bad.
the desperate one.
He's not
He is-
cool.
yeah,
not cool.
He is
Bless him.
not cool.
He's going out every night at bars,
Yeah.
performing stand-up comedy, hanging out with like other cool people, and I'm like, that's what I want.
He's not.
He has a mustache,
He's hanging out with people. You know what I mean?
but he's like, it's but cool people, you know? No, you don't think he's stand-up
Some of
comedy
them are cool,
or
some of
stand-up
them are
comedy?
cool.
You don't think the stand-up comics are out here just the coolest people ever?
Can't believe Tim hates stand-up comics.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're out there saying jokes, doing drugs that I can't pronounce.
Here's what I'm gonna say. I obviously like I'm playing this up and like definitely a lot of hyperbole here. The one thing that is true, I hate when I hang out with his stand-up comedy friends and we're just like at a dinner and they're all just trying to make me laugh. Like they're all just trying to like all of a sudden I'm a fucking participant in a crime. It feels like I don't want this.
I feel like I can say this as a podcaster. When I'm listening to podcasts I love and they have on a stand-up comedian as a guest, and that stand-up comedian then proceeds for an hour trying to do bits and trying to like do the whole stand-up routine in the middle of the show, I'm like, just be a regular person.
just be
just talk.
regular.
Just have a conversation.
We're eating nachos.
What I do love, though, is listening to Pablo Torre Finds Out, and it's always Katie Nolan who's the best with her boyfriend, Dan Soder. And Dan just always, like, has the most funny wrestling references. He does a great Macho Man. It makes me laugh every time. He's a funny dude.
Can you do any wrestling impressions?
Yeah, I do a great Stone Cold. Yeah.
Oh, can I
Do a
hear
really,
it?
really good Stone Cold, yeah. And that's the bottom line. A lot of people come in here looking for a review, but I don't give a damn. Pretty decent.
He has the voices in there.
And that's the bottom line.
But the cadence,
is there. Yeah, I like
the
it.
energy.
Yeah,
the
let's work on that a
energy
little
is
bit more.
there.
Yeah.
If you think the energy is there, of course, you can super chat into the show. If you have any thoughts, questions, concerns, comments, anything you want about First Berserker Kazan, please get those in.
It's just your Trump. Like you're so
It's
cool.
always circulating the Trump.
It's like Stone Cold as Donald Trump is what that is.
I had a really good one, though, on the Kind of Funny podcast, because I think Greg was like putting me in these improv scenarios, and one of them became me where I was Stone Cold working at an ice cream place, and I was like, cause Cold Stone said so.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
You know
That's
what I
funny.
mean? It was a
That's
good
funny.
one. Yeah.
Oh man, we do great
He's on
stuff
it.
here.
Get to the back of the line, cause Cold Stone said so. That's what it was.
That's good.
Remember at Cold Stone when you tipped them and they had to do a song and dance?
What?
There was an era where at Cold Stone, if they got tipped, they had to stop what they were doing and do this whole fucking song
I
and
didn't
dance.
know that.
Oh, guys. My friend Angie Wang, poor Angie Wang back in high school. She worked at Cold Stone, and me and my friends.
Oh no,
we
you assholes!
And we were tipping them. We were giving them money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
but perform for me. That's you asshole.
We only did it once, but that one time we did it many times.
Jesus Christ.
Today,
Lord.
after this, you got a whole bunch of fun stuff, but you already got Kind of Funny Games Daily. That was me and Bless talking all about some rumors of a new God of War game that might be coming this year. And that turned into a very exciting conversation. So check that out to see what might be going on. After this, though, it's going to be a really fun time. We are streaming Half-Life 2. We are partnering with NVIDIA to jump into play what we all agree could be the Game of the Year contender for 2004 Half-Life 2. But now it has RTX, a new community mod that uses the power of NVIDIA GPUs to show off how good Valve's classic continues to be over 2 decades later with the most advanced graphics you can find on any video game anywhere. This is just released demo of the still unpublished full game. We're going to be showing off every ray traced head crab we can find. This is going to be Nick playing, who loves Half-Life and Half-Life 2, with Andy kind of playing shotgun there, talking and helping him through all the tech stuff. But I don't know if y'all have seen any of this stuff. We're looking at some footage now. It is gorgeous. Like, this game was made to be enhanced this way, and it's about to be a very, very, very special stream. Are you excited, Andy?
Yeah, I'm super stoked for it. I booted it up over the weekend, just kind of on my own and kind of mess around with it. And it's man, I just love doing the before and afters and, doing the Coke Pepsi challenge. It looks so great.
So great. Let's see. If you're a Kind of Fun member, like I'm saying, you can get today's Greg Way with Nick and Raj. Thank you to our Patreon producers, Delaney Twine and Carl Jacobs and Omega Buster. Today we are brought to you by Stash, but we'll tell you about that later. It's time for the topic of the show. The first Berserker Kazan. The review embargo has been hit. We are now going to discuss it ourselves. Bless,
Tim,
how long have you played?
I have played about 15 hours.
Andy, how long have you played?
I have played 32 hours.
Oh,
Wow.
I put in
okay.
a lot of work this weekend.
So this is a review in progress. Andy, what are you thinking so far?
I'm fairly close to the end. I think it's a real hard game.
Dude, yeah.
This is a hard.
It's a difficult ass video
It's
game.
a hard video game. My number one thing let me get the negatives out of the way. Not enough Ben Starr. Ben Starr is Kazan. He's the titular dude. He's the first Berserker, some say.
Wow.
But every once in a blue moon, you get I have to save them. And that's it. Like, it's everybody else around him talking, which is like, whatever. And I think the story is kind of, I stopped caring about 3-4 hours in, but they do a really good job of helping you try to understand what the hell's going on. There's a really nice little menu screen that shows you chapter by chapter who's getting added to, I guess, like the family tree. It's not a family tree, but it's, Kazan's in the center, and then in the first chapter, it's 2 of the homies, and then the next chapter, it's extra NPCs and how they relate, and it's sort of like a relationship tree. So they do a decent job there. The game has a really great art style, runs fantastically on Steam Deck.
That's why you have the deck in front of you.
Yeah, it runs great on Steam Deck. It has, like, I think some of my favorite action in a while. Combat is lovely. I really, really fuck with it. It reminds me a lot more of the sort of Stellar Blade, Lies of P, Sekiro side of things, where you are parrying as much as you can with the right timing. And, we've had these discussions, whereas, like, it's less of a Dark Souls game and more of you're going to try to chip down their stamina bar to stagger the enemy, going for that higher hit of damage. But the amount of different moves you can sort of add into your kit make you look so sick. Like, there's going to be some awesome ways to make this game look like the sexiest thing you've ever seen combat-wise, where Kazan just doing crazy flips and hitting a dude, and then, like, the blade phantom that is kind of like in his body will, like, pop out from the right and from the left and hit the enemy as well. It's really, really cool. I think the level design is better as of late from what I've been experiencing, but it's been pretty good so far. Your standard kind of old school Dark Souls style of level design where you unlock that shortcut and suddenly it's easier to run to the boss or whatever. But yeah, so far I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm really digging the challenge. I really don't like the loot system.
Oh, it's too much.
Loot's
You know what it reminds me of?
Destiny.
See, I was gonna say Koei Tecmo. Remember playing Wolong Fallen Dynasty?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was so much loot everywhere.
A lot of loot. I think it's going to be good for people out there who are the freaks that love doing the min-maxing stuff, because it has like weapon infusions where if I have this purple weapon that I love the stats on because it gives me stamina stuff, and that's kind of what I'm building towards, but I find a better purple weapon of higher level, I can infuse that power into the one that I like to kind of power it up a little bit. It reminds me a lot of Destiny in that way. But it's like a game it's too much of a game within a game that's already taking a long time to beat because I got to get good. This game's pretty fucking tough. But I enjoy it so far quite a bit, Tim.
Hell yeah. Bless.
Yeah, I agree pretty much 100% with everything Andy said. I think this is a very fun game, and I think the thing that I'm suffering from / enjoying at the same time. I remember it was either last week or the week before where we were talking about like when we're playing roguelites and you have like the 3 options that pop up and how good that is for my brain. As soon as I see those 3 options of like these are the perks you can choose, like my brain just like gets a good feeling. This game gives me so much of that of, oh, I just like these types of games a lot, man. I love a game that is I'm deflecting to build down like their stamina meter to then stagger them and then get the big hit on them. It is the Sekiro like, right? It is Stellar Blade. It is Wolong Fallen Dynasty. It is Lies of P. There are so many action games that we played like this. And I think for me, that's the biggest almost downfall of it / the thing I like the most, where as I'm playing this, I am not super motivated to be like, oh man, I'm fucking in it. I need to get to the next thing. Cause this plays and feels like so many games I played before like this. And I don't think it necessarily excels far beyond those. Like so far after being only 15 hours in, right? Like so far I'm still preferring a Lies of P, right? Like even Stellar Blade, I could see this maybe getting there for me, but I think still Stellar Blade stands above it. That said, I think what it does well. I enjoy the combat system, the skill tree, and like the abilities and the options as far as gear and customization and stuff like that. Those things are pretty heavy, but it is like Andy's talking about, right? It is, you are just picking up a bunch of things, and I'm going to the menu every 5 minutes and being like, all right, this is like higher than this. I guess I'll do this, but then if I do this, it'll lessen my stamina, but the number's higher, so I guess I'll equip this. It's a lot of that management, which does turn into a game within a game, like Andy was talking about. And I think it can get a bit tedious, but if you're somebody whose brain loves that stuff, like you're gonna have a really good time. And so for me, I almost compare this to something akin of a Neo, as far as I think the way that it's gonna hit for people. It's that plus like a really good art style. I think it's very pretty to look at. I'm with Andy as well, where I stopped caring about the story almost immediately. It is just a bunch of jargon. It is a bunch of like, maybe if you're into the DNF universe, there might be stuff here for you, but moment to moment in the story, I'm not caring. But I do like the character design and the spirit design, and we'll get a little bit more about like the character that's within your character and like the different abilities and stuff. But I'm having a good time. I see myself seeing this through to the end. I think as of now, I'm like not slow playing it, but I'm not in a rush to play it either, right?
You brought up the DNF world. What can you expound on that a little bit more?
Yeah, so this game takes place within the DNF universe. So that's Dungeon Fighter Online, I think is the name of the like game that came out years and years and years ago. I don't know much about DNF, Tim. It's one of those things that's been around, that's super popular. There was
it's a fighting game, DNF Duel.
DNF Duel was the fighting game
I know about.
that came out. That was developed by Arxis. That came out a couple years ago, and that was my first jumping into the universe. But it's basically another universe that is very popular to a certain section of gamers. Now they've been doing a good job of, finding games to fit within the IP. So this is another one being published by Nexon, but also developed by Neopol.
Interesting. Andy, when it comes to the loot stuff and you saying that there's the game within a game, do you think that it's doing that stuff in a way that's unique that maybe might find like a new subsect of gamers that like want a game like this, but also like want it to be even more intricate? Or have we seen that before and this is going to speak to those people?
I mean, it really does kind of remind me of when you're going for like the god tier role in Destiny, weapon grinding, but not even quite to that degree. I was talking to the homie Fighting Cowboy, who's very popular for playing a lot of these sort of Souls-likes and action games, and he's just like a really, really good gamer. And he told me it took him about 30 hours to finish the game, but he spent about 50 hours in total in the game because he was grinding new gear. And I was like, how does one go about that? But then I ended up finding a gear set that it's called the Bard gear set. And the more, if you have like the Bard headpiece, then that's one thing or whatever. But if you have the Bard like chest piece as well, then the more that you have of the Bard sort of like the whole set, you get more and more benefits. So I ended up having like 4 of the different Bard armor set or whatever. I think it was like head, chest, maybe like the pants and the boots or whatever. But with every new perk, I was able to get 20% chance of getting better loot, and then another one was 25% chance of getting like more loot drops. So I had that on at one point, and right near one of the bonfires, it's like that little red sword that you see in the ground. Again, very Super Souls influenced. Anytime you sit down at the bonfire, bad guys will respawn. So I kept on getting up and going to kill a spider enemy, and he would drop a shitload of loot. And then I started seeing the pink items, because pink is better than purple in this case. Those are like the legendary ones or whatever. And I'd come back and I sit down, and I did that. I did that for like 30 minutes and found myself finding better and better loot, because it was like, this dude's like 10 feet away. So it was just like quick, bang, bang, bang. And not only was I leveling up as well, but I kept on getting new armor pieces that I could either exchange for the souls, or lacrima in this game is what they call it. And that's what you use to level up. So I could exchange it for that, or I could take it to the blacksmith to break it down to get new pieces to then make new armor, or I could infuse it into the current armor that I have to then power that shit up. So I found myself getting into that rhythm. I was like, okay, this is what Fighting Cowboy meant by like grinding the loot, because it's just really convenient with an enemy being right there. And the enemy's giving me a decent amount of like souls. It's not just like 200 or whatever. I'm getting a decent amount. But is that what I want out of this experience?
See, and that's the thing, is that's been my experience of this game too. This game loves numbers and stats, like incremental numbers and stats, and they have so many different ways of like slowly powering up your character, whether it be through gaining lacrima and like literally like, you know, statting up your character, or whether it be gear, or whether it be a number of things. I got to the end of like the second big level, which had a boss fight, where I was like, oh, like that's what we're doing here, where the boss fight was so fucking tough. And it took me like hours and hours and hours to get through it. But between all that time, I am like, all right, cool. Let me turn around. Let me grind. Let me get my levels up. One thing that this game does, I think is kind of unique to it a little bit, is they have these, they're called what? Adversary, revenants of adversary, I think is what they're called. You
can summon homies to help you.
Yes. So when you get to a boss, you can summon a homie to help you, but also when you're out in the level you're exploring, you can summon homies, or not you can summon enemies to fight, which are different from the enemies that are out in the world. These basically work kind of as like other hunters in Bloodborne, where these are characters that are mirrors of the player character. And so you're fighting somebody that plays like another player. And if you beat them, you then get a resource that you can spend at the boss fight to then summon an ally to fight the boss with you.
Cool.
And so, and those guys also drop loot, right? And those guys also the thing that they drop also you can use to level up. It's a whole thing. But I spent so much of my time at the end of that big second level, like turning around from this boss fight, going back, taking out enemies, fighting the adversaries, and being like, listen, I'm gonna get myself OP. And I did that for hours and hours and hours. And there's a part of my brain that fucking loves that shit. Like, I love grinding in a Souls-like. I love just like, you know, getting those numbers up. But then there is the other part of my brain that's like Andy, where I'm like, is this what they want me to do though? Because this feels kind of excessive for how much I feel like I need to do this to play on a fair playing field.
There's also a lot of somewhat like not hidden menus, but there are menus in this game that I found 15 to 20 hours in where I'm like, oh, I could level this. I didn't know this was here. Like suddenly I went into this one menu called Kazan's Memories, Anytime you run around the world, Tim, there might be a dead body with like a little red glow on it. And you walk up to it, and you like suck the red glow out of it. I don't know. And you hear like a memory of like, Kazan, we have to stop them or whatever. You kind of hear how that dude died. And when the more and more you find those, the more and more that you take their memories, the more that you have like a certain inventory or a certain currency that you can level up like permanent stats. I didn't even think to look at that screen. I was like, oh shit, I didn't know this was here. Not saying it's going to be life or death, but it certainly helps. There's a lot of different things in this game that are accessible to you that could maybe make the experience a little bit easier. Like Blessing was talking about these homies that you summon. The really cool thing that I think systems-wise and creative thing that they've done here is that there are a lot of different homies that you could summon, and they're all different looking. They all have their characters, right? Mm-hmm. And the more that you have each one selected, like I can go into the screen and select one. And the more and more that I do well with them, the more and more that dude gets powered up. Not that he's even out, not that he's summoned, he's just getting stronger and stronger. But each one of these like teammates or whatever has their own passives that they give you whenever they are summoned in a big boss fight. So the one that I'm using right now, his passive stats give me way faster stamina regeneration. So if I were to summon him in a fight, I get a shitload faster stamina regeneration. Another one of the homies gives you way better crit damage. And the more and more that you have them selected while you're playing the game, the more and more you level them up. I think that's a really sick system. I love that it's not just random NPC without, like, I have no context for who you are. You're at least getting, like, not only the passive benefit of them being an extra body in the boss fight, but they're giving you some sort of power to make you stronger in the fight, which I think is cool, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, like so many different small things like that of you can play this way to then get this thing up, right? So yeah, you can have a certain ally equipped as you're playing and get the plus 4% critical damage. But another one that I realized as I was playing recently where I was like, oh damn, y'all really have so many things is in the levels, there are anywhere from like 1 to maybe 3 or 4 of these crystals, these red crystals that you'll find that you can break. And if you break enough
sometimes
of those,
they're hidden and sometimes they're hard to reach places, so you got to like throw a
you gotta throw your spear, your javelin.
It becomes like a collectathon thing, but there's not a whole lot of them.
But then you come back and then like you talk to a person and they're like, all right, now you can spend these to do, you gain +2 lacrima or +2% lacrima now or +2%. I think maybe a small critique here of what they do with it is I oftentimes look at these numbers and I'm like, when you're presenting these numbers to me, they almost feel too small to care, even though I know that like in the grand scheme, it's all going to add up over time. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, all right, what's +1% to me right now, right? Like I feel like I want to build towards something, but I almost wish that they would have min-maxed more in terms of, all right, if you want to gain more lacrima, this is how you have to do it. Or if you want to do more critical hit, this is how you have to do it, as opposed to everything kind of being spread out amongst everything.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because of the weapon that I'm using. I chose to go with the main one that they start you off with, which you have like a sword and an axe.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, it's the dex build. It's the dexterity build where it's a bit faster. There's abilities that you can unlock that make your dude look just like crazy fast and a lot of cool, flashy looking things. But the reason I love it, it's got such a good crunch to it. This game has fantastic sound design. Like the parries, the criticals. There's moments, it's got like. It has that Monster Hunter hit stop sort of thing, and there's times where there's 4 like just brainless zombies walking at me, and if I swipe at them, you hear the do 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 do, and it just feels awesome.
Dude,
it's got a really
even
good
popping
vibe.
a health feels like it sounds good. Where it's like it almost sounds like a creature like got their head popped or something.
Yeah. So the reason I went with that weapon because I love the way it feels. I'm usually a very heavy set weapon dude, and there are 3 weapon types you can get in this game. And it kind of sucks because it's really hard to reset your skills or your talent points.
Yes.
But I'm definitely building towards dexterity in this case. I think they call it I don't know. Let's just call it dexterity for now because everybody knows what to call it. Or here,
It's like willpower.
I can actually. Oh yeah, it is willpower. You're
Yeah.
right.
I know because I'm doing the same thing.
So instead of going strength, I'm going willpower. And as I'm playing, I'm like, I'm gonna try to go glass cannon with this shit. Let me just put a shitload of points into willpower and barely have any health or stamina. And it legitimately doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
I'm doing half of a pixel more damage than I was before.
Wow.
The numbers are so, in my opinion, broken. Like, I wish they didn't go with this sort of I wish they went with the Sekiro system.
Yeah.
Where you just get stronger. And it's like a magical, like, under the hood, you're stronger now.
Yeah.
Great job.
Cool.
And the stuff you got to worry about is maybe...
It's more learning about enemy types and systems and stuff like that, and less about the menu side of shit, right?
Yeah, like, because the thing if I were to go glass cannon build in any Dark Souls game, you feel that shit. You see one hit that you take, and it's like, God damn, you took off a fourth of their how high is your strength? That's crazy, or whatever. Or how high is your dex? That's insane. And here it's like, I barely feel like I am doing even much more than I was prior. And again, I won't legitimately what's up?
Does that work in the inverse? Like you being a glass cannon, like are you feeling like, God, I'm getting destroyed now? Or is it still like, oh, I'm taking a little more damage?
Well, no, because your health bar you definitely see your health bar growing. So I would say like, if there's people, but that was me early on before I sort of reset. This is me just kind of experimenting with stuff. It does not feel like you can really tune your shit the way an Elden Ring or a Dark Souls is. You're barely going to do a bit more damage. And again, like I'm telling you, my stats at one point where I had 15 health, 12 stamina, 37 willpower. And it's like, why am I not seeing that reflected in what I'm doing?
I 1000% agree, right? Like it was the same thing for me where I'm such a min-maxer in games like this. I want to be the person who I'm in Liza P. I'm putting all my numbers into
Motivity.
Motivity, yes.
Yeah.
I was trying to pull it. I was like, which one was it? I put all my numbers into Motivity. And then
Which is their version of dexterity too.
yeah, which I learned was like not the thing to do because that was basically hard mode for the game. But I did it anyway, and like that was my play style. You know, similar thing with in Elden Ring where I'm like, I'm gonna put all my numbers into dexterity. Here, I started off just putting my numbers into strength because I didn't think this game had scaling at first just because I didn't notice it in the menu. And then once I noticed that the sword and axe scale with willpower and strength, I was like, oh, okay, cool. Then I'll do strength willpower. So I'm going to, start speccing into those. And it didn't feel like it mattered enough. And I right now, if you look at my stats, I took a turn and I was like, all right, everything's getting leveled up evenly now. And that's probably been the best decision I made as far as like how I'm going about this game. Cause now I'm like, okay, cool. I got good health. I got good stamina. I got good everything. And it doesn't feel like it really has shifted. Or I guess the way I was playing before didn't feel like it was making as much of a difference as far as doing big damage on the enemy. Like all damage I was doing felt non-consequential.
I would have loved to have found another item to reset my skills because Fighting Cowboy told me that he was using the giant sword, like the great sword, which is a strength build as opposed to the dexterity build. I wanted to switch to that just for experimentation's sake, and I used like the one reset skills thing that I found, and I haven't found any more. I thought that'd be a lot easier to find, and it's kind of fucking annoying that I don't have another way to do that. Maybe I'm just missing it because this game has a lot of, I think, missable things, but so far it's like I don't know where that item is because I had it in my inventory at first. And once I used that, I thought I'd be finding more. With how frequently I'm finding a lot of other items in the game and other items of or other currencies, I just haven't found that little son of a bitch. I don't know where it is.
I definitely want to keep talking about first Berserker, Kazan. We got a couple super chats that I'm going to get to. But if you have super chats, please get them in because when we get back from a word from our sponsors, we're going to get to those.
My brother Joshua.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Stash. Are you still putting off saving and investing because you'll get to it someday? Stash turns someday into today. Stash isn't just an investing app, it's a registered investment advisor that combines automated investing with dependable financial strategies to help you reach your goals faster. They'll provide you with personalized advice on what to invest in based on your goals, or if you want to just sit back and watch your money go to work, you can opt into their award-winning expert-managed portfolio that picks stocks for you. Stash has helped millions of Americans reach their financial goals and starts at just $3 per month. Don't let your savings sit around. Make it work harder for you. Go to get.stash.com/kindafunny to see how you can receive $25 towards your first stock purchase and to view important disclosures. That's get.stash.com/kindafunny. Paid non-client endorsement. Not representative of all clients and not a guarantee. Investment advisory services offered by Stash Investments, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investing involves risk and investments may lose value. Offers subject to T&Cs. Did either of you play the demo for First Berserker, Kazan?
I did.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Because CJ
Sure did.
Splits On writes in and says, I don't know why I said his name that way. Is the demo a good representation of the full game?
Yeah, I'll say so.
Yeah. I would say so. I remember playing one of the demo builds and a lot of people saying, Andy, you didn't go check out there's an extra boss. And I never had the ability to see that boss. I don't know how I didn't, but yeah, the demo gives you a good opportunity to see what the level design is like, take on little small ad enemies, and then they give you the boss fight where it is,
All right, learn how to play the game.
You learning the different patterns, and as you play the game more and as you die more, like that's the thing where when Fighting Cowboy told me it took him like 30 hours to beat the game, I'm like, all right, well, tack on an extra hour of boss fights. Tack on an extra hour per boss fight for me, because that's likely what it's going to be for me, where I think there's been 2 bosses where I've taken like 2 hours for, and a lot of them take me, 30 minutes to an hour to beat, because it's fucking tough. But I think the sort of like the way Stellar Blade does it, there's a lot of different abilities that you can, when you hold the A button, it'll show you, when you hold the A button, it shows you like your abilities on the bottom right.
Oh, you remapped your controls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, R2 for me.
R2, gotcha. So I have I have a lot of different cool abilities that make me stronger and make me faster and maybe whittle down the enemy's stamina bar quicker or whatever. And there's a lot of really cool flashy animations.
And I love that.
those.
Like when I'm in the combat, it does feel like you have a lot of options. I do love this game has like 3 different ways to parry, which is really good.
Yeah. It does. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's another really cool innovation. Like it's just give
you options.
Yeah, because you can just left bumper is your standard deflect, right? If you're holding it, you're blocking, but you'll take chip damage. If you time it right, you see the red flash of ting, and that's like, oh shit, I really parried that well. And I will see, I love speccing my stuff into like make the enemy lose health whenever I do a perfect parry. And I just love the way that sort of like feels, and I feel stronger and like an awesome gamer, right? And the more you do that, that's awesome. But there's a couple of other things. They have a version of their Mikiri counter for all you Sekiro heads out there, where you'll see a little icon pop up above your dude's head, and that tells you, I either got to dodge this, but I can't just normal parry it. I have to hold, for me, on my button scheme, it's really weird. I have to hold left bumper and then hit the square or X button.
Okay. And for me, it's L1 circle. So it's not that far off.
Okay, cool. So when that happens, the enemy, like you'll see the icon pop up above your head, and it's like, oh, that move, I have to remember to do this move in the next half a second. And then the enemy does a wind up. And of course, these wind-ups take like 7 minutes.
Yeah, dude, I love it.
Because they're just like, oh, God, when's this move coming? And finally, when they come and hit you, it's like, poof, you have like a much bigger impacted visual sound, and it feels great.
And they're like down for a second, too, so you can just wail on them.
Yeah. And then there's another parry that they... I'll look at the name of the skill right now.
This is a skill tree one.
This is in the common skill tree, and it's called counterattack. Nope, that's not what it's called. It's called... reflection.
There you go. I was gonna say all these abilities have like really unique names for things that are also in other games.
So for me, my attack scheme is like a Souls game where it's R1 for light attack, R2 for heavy attack. For the reflection, you have to hold L1 and then hit R2. The thing is, it's like you have to time it perfectly.
Yeah.
Because it does a lot of stagger damage on the enemy, and it knocks him down, and sometimes it might even get him into like a critical, like where the red icon pops up on their body to say, all right, do that finisher critical move or whatever. Not a finisher, because usually it doesn't kill them, but it's one that you have to hit way earlier than you're used to. So like if you see the enemy start their animation, you're like, all right, let me try to do this. This is a big risk reward. And that's what I love about games like these, where you feel so rewarded because you know if you didn't nail that, you're fucked. You're going to take a couple of big hits, and suddenly it's like, man, I had a full health bar, and then I just started fucking up all my parries, and now I'm almost dead, you know? So this one, you hold L1, you hit R2, and this is like, somehow they even made the sound cooler and more satisfying.
I think
you
L1
just,
triangle
like,
for default control scheme.
you just fucking like knock them down, and it's like, oh yes, I nailed that shit.
All their stamina gone.
And but you know, don't rely on it too much because it's really hard to do because a lot of enemies will attack you within one frame of animation, or maybe they're gonna take 6 minutes to wind up their animation.
For me, this is where the game shines. I saw people earlier in chat wondering, like, are they gonna give it scores? Like, what do you guys think on, like, as far as score? I don't think I'm gonna give it a score just because I'm probably halfway through the game. But I will say, I think the closest comparison I can give to this would be, I played more Wolong than I did Neo, but like, if this game I think reminds me a lot of Neo. If you remember the Wolong review that we did a couple years ago, I think we all gave that like a 3 out of 5 type thing, even though we really liked the gameplay. I'll say that this is like a step above.
I agree. Totally agree.
Where like the combat is really engaging, and I think the combat gives you enough options, and the bosses are really well designed, even though they're fucking tough. That is really, really fun on that level. And then the art style, also in presentation, I think is really good. But the story reminds me about how I felt about the Wolong story, but not as bad. Like Wolong was so boring, whereas this, at least you can tell that they're trying. You can tell that there's a universe here that might be, if you're a nerd about it, could have stuff for you. But like, you know, I'm not necessarily here for that. The level design might be like slightly better than a Wolong as well, right? Like, if I were to give it a score right now, I would say 8 out of 10.
I'm around like 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like I'm
That's great.
I'm having a great. It is
definition.
great. It is great. That's the definition. I really, really fucking like this game a lot.
That's awesome.
I would put it above, for me at least, Stellar Blade, because I think combat and movement feels better. I loved the way Stellar Blade felt when you were kind of finally getting into the action, but something about like just her standard attack, when you just hit like the normal attack, it felt like you weren't moving far enough. Like you were almost just stationary swinging, and that kind of annoyed me. I think the locomotion and the way that you just traverse and run around in this game, it feels good and it looks good. Hold on, I take that back. The standard run that isn't the sprint in this game looks like you're kind of on a treadmill. Your legs are moving too fast for how you're moving. And I really fucking hate it. Like I can't.
It's like my Pomeranians.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you see.
They ain't moving though.
Yeah, like his legs are moving and you're barely kind of like. So I'm normally just sprinting everywhere because it's a lot less annoying to look at. But yeah, I think the game is really awesome and enjoyable as hell if you're into challenging games or Souls games or whatever. I don't think there's any difficulty options, right? There's no way to drop.
I think there is.
Really?
I think there's like a story option or something.
Adam 2 says, I didn't care for the Elden Ring story.
There is. Yes, there is. Sorry.
I didn't care for the Elden Ring story. Throw rocks at me, I know. But the gameplay hooked me. Is this similar to a degree?
Well, it depends on what you liked about Elden Ring. Like, I think so much of the special sauce of Elden Ring is not only the combat, but the exploration takes a big chunk of the pie of like, man, I appreciate the fuck out of this game because there's a wonder around every corner. This game isn't like that. This game is way more akin to an old school Souls game in terms of level design. Not as smart, but recently the areas that I'm in, there's been a couple of shortcuts where I'm like, whoa, that was awesome. I wish there was more of that in the game. But yeah, I think it's pretty standard level design. I think it's a much different. What I would say to anybody who's interested in this is the same thing I would tell to anybody who's been interested in Souls games at all. This doesn't play like a Souls game. This plays like Sekiro or Lies of P or Stellar Blade. It's a different combat system entirely. You're not gonna just be able to get a big bonk hammer and take out an enemy in 3 hits while like dodge rolling on time. You have to start to memorize patterns of enemies where you know this dude's gonna hit you with a left swing and a right swing, and he's gonna wait just a skosh to do the overhead swing, and you have to go ding, 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 and once you do that, like you're gonna get that. That's where I find the satisfaction in it.
Yeah, dude. Fuck.
It's sick.
Dude, I need a cigarette.
As I was saying that sentence, I saw Blessed smiling. And
that does something to my brain, man.
It does, dude.
You were just saying you're not thinking about like going back to it right now. Like the moment we end this, you're about to go play this game.
Dude, I might have to boot up a little bit.
Better than Lies of P? I would say no. I think Lies of P is like the best Souls-like that isn't a FromSoft game.
I agree with that.
But another thing I love about Lies of P was the weapon crafting where I can have like a cool handle that has certain stats. It's a handle from a sword, but I could match that up with a goddamn axe that I could take the axe off of the other handle that I was on and match them up. And now I have new stats and it swings and performs differently. Like, and of course, parrying enough to break enemies' weapons was just one of the coolest, most satisfying things.
Yeah.
But this is still up there. This is awesome.
Yeah, I saw somebody earlier in chat asked like, oh, it was CJ Splitstone. I don't understand why these games can never get the story aspect right. I feel like Liza P was one of those rare ones where I was like, oh, I really like the world they have here. Obviously, they're working off of Pinocchio, but like
I think Liza P did. Liza P had a lot of moments where I cared about a certain NPC, and you start to kind of learn more about them, and then you're like, oh, you're like, it had a lot more intriguing things like that where.
And honestly, it was even more impressive that like there was an IP to build off of, but the way they still told the story felt so genuine to what Souls games are.
Yeah.
And like redoing that, which I think is why it kind of stands out.
But yeah, this game, I don't know. Again, just a stunning lack of Ben Starr in this game. It's crazy to me how little he's actually speaking in the game. It really bums me out.
Yeah,
I'm not happy about it, dude. Because yeah, I don't know. The other enemies take a lot more priority, and like there's never like a monologue moment from him. There's never. It's just little splashes of dialogue here and there that every enemy's always talking more than you. And you're such an important character in this game because you are essentially like you were a captain of an army, and there's a lot of people that look up to you, right? So that's already going to that already takes away my mental argument where for some reason I felt like this NPC was supposed to be a voiceless or this character was supposed to be voiceless. Like, you know, like any Souls like any Souls main character, you don't ever talk. It's just always everybody else. But then but then at the last second, they're like, oh, we should get Ben Starr to kind of voice this. So throw some lines in there. But then the more I played, I'm like, no, actually, you're a really important character. You're a captain who has to like, you know, really pump up his troops, and everybody looks up to you. Kazan, oh my God, I can't believe you came back for us. You know, there's a lot of moments like that there's just rarely any moments where I get to go, like, Ben Starr's popping off here. It's definitely not Final Fantasy 16.
One of my complaints, because this game does have sauce, like in terms of presentation and what it has going on, like in terms of, you know, level presentation, character presentation, but it doesn't have much sauce when it comes to the gear that you put on. I feel like we could have gone a bit further and had like cooler shit. Maybe I'm not far enough yet to like see the coolest shit that it has to offer, but like I'm looking at my character and I'm like, all right, cool, you just got on some garb. You know what I mean? Give me the cool carb.
I think the more you play, the more you'll see that, because anytime you kill a large enemy, they will drop an item along with like other random loot. And then the blacksmith will give you the ability to use that one item to make a sick ass or make a weapon, and then make other pieces of armor that are kind of like similar visually to what that boss was. Later on, I think like, you know how sick the Phantom Blade guy looks? Phantom Blade Phantom? Phantom Blade
one
Zero.
of those, yeah. Phantom Blade Zero, yeah.
How sick that dude looks. Like he looks like an enemy in like Power Rangers, or I don't know. He just got like a cool sort of suit to him. There's a very similar vibe with a lot of the armors in here, where you're no longer just soldier with a helmet and shoulder pads or whatever. Now you're like, oh, you look kind of otherworldly, and I really enjoy the way that the game kind of scales up visually.
Josh Morales super chat saying, speaking of the bosses, how iconic are the bosses? I feel like in these kind of games, the main character is never the coolest character. What bosses and enemies stick out as notable?
Oh, I mean, we can't spoil that, but like, there's sick ass stuff in this game. I think the first day that I finally started playing it, I think the reason why I didn't beat this game is like GDC was just like a lot. I didn't have a whole lot of time to play. But Blessing telling me like, did you get to this lizard boss who was one of the secret bosses in the demo, I believe, that everybody was telling me to fight? I was like, no. And he was like, dude, he's really tough. And then I had the pleasure of trying him, fighting him for the first time. And I tried him once, and I got to the second phase, and I was like, all right, now's not the night. It's already too late. And if I keep on going, I'm going to be stuck here for 2 hours. Let me try him out later. And then when I tried him out later, I was like, oh, Bless, that wasn't even the second phase. And Bless was like, yeah, you described what happened. And I was like, he doesn't know that that's not the second phase. So it was that boss is really tough, and that's like a really big first skill check for you. That's like, oh shit, if I need to get my shit together, or else I'm gonna be here for a couple of hours, you know.
Yeah, I'm liking the bosses. They're not my favorite bosses in an action game. Like, I think the gameplay is super fun with them, but I think there is a certain level of, and the Blade Phantom is dope as fuck. The lizard guy that we're talking about, I do look at him and I'm like, you're just a lizard guy. Generic. You're kind of just a generic lizard guy.
And there's a lot of them.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, so far I think more bosses lean toward, I see the archetype you are, and like, I'm not seeing much further past that. But again, this is me halfway through the game. I'm sure I'm going to run into more bosses later where I'm like, oh, this is cool. But I've not had not to spoil Liza P, I'm not going to spoil Liza P, but like Liza P had some boss fights where in that mid-phase transition, like some transformation shit happens, and I'm like, oh, that's fucking ill. I've not had that moment here yet.
I'll say, I don't know if anything ever gets to Liza P level either with bosses.
With bosses, yeah.
They're still cool. Like if I were to give him a score in the kind of funny scale to him, give him like a 7.5. I think it's really good. Like really good shit. I'd put Liza P in like the 9 section.
We can honestly, next time we review a Souls-like or a Souls adjacent game, we gotta like review every Souls element. You know what I mean? Of like, all right, bosses, level design.
The name of the words they're using for dexterity. Motivity.
Yeah. We're bringing it back to like the old school IGN reviews, Tim, where or like GameSpot reviews, where
Fun fact.
like 2005 video game reviews.
GamePro had sound, and it had like the silly face of like,
we gotta average it all out.
These are some of the armors that you get. Like these are some of the armors you get later on.
Brother, I've not even seen this screen.
The crafting.
Where are you?
This is the blacksmith. You find him a bit later on.
Oh, I did just find the blacksmith. Okay, cool. I'll talk to him then.
So, Andy, earlier you were talking about playing on the Steam Deck and it's running well. I saw a lot of chat earlier on wanting more details on that. Can you talk about performance both on Steam Deck and otherwise, and what your playtime was split between the two?
I maybe put in like maybe 2 hours on Steam Deck.
Okay.
That's not because it like doesn't run well. I just like I loved being on my PC with my screen and my controller. And a lot
what
of it.
What screen are you playing on these days? When you're playing a game on like your PC gaming setup, what's your screen?
Oh, I mean, it's the best purchase I've made in a long time. Last year I bought a 32-inch 4K Alienware OLED. And this sucker's a fucking dream. Like, it just looks so goddamn good. So I play on that thing. It's 240 hertz. It gives me all the frames I want, gives me all the refresh rate that I want. It looks amazing. So that's where I primarily play everything. And but going back to the Steam Deck, it runs so good on this little machine. I did lower because I kind of preferred I want the most frame rate on the Steam Deck, right? And the Steam Deck OLED screen is a 90 hertz refresh rate. And you can play with unlocked frame rate up to like 90 frames per second or even 120 frames per second. But I lowered everything down to like low. But the nice thing about it doesn't do what a lot of games like Monster Hunter does. That's the most recent game I can think of, where Monster Hunter, obviously a big beefy game to try to run on a Steam Deck. And the way that they try to get it to run is by like just throwing as much AMD FSR as you can at it to try to get it to like upscale correctly. And it looks so mushy and noisy and gross as hell. So like I didn't even bother playing. But here I wish there was an extra setting, because I was able to lower anti-aliasing all the way to low. And then I lowered resolution all the way to low. And it gives you a cool like PS2-ish look, where it's still like clean and crisp, but it just has like an old school nostalgic sort of like 3D look to it. But I can raise the resolution up to, it doesn't give you numbers though, but I can put resolution up to like higher and it'll look really clean and good. I may not be getting 60 plus frames per second, but it still feels really smooth and responsive. I think a lot of that's because of art style, right, Bless? Like it's not going for this crazy visual thing, and it's not this gigantic open world either.
It looks great.
It looks great.
Fantastic.
It has this sort of cel-shaded anime look to all the characters, and the environments have good lighting and everything. And yeah, you're able to play this game really smoothly and well on this machine.
Yeah. Any final thoughts on First Berserker?
A really good game. I had a final thought and I missed it. I lost it. I was like, I know I'm going to end this podcast on. I totally forgot what I was going to say. Andy, you speak.
Okay,
Andy,
I'll
you
speak.
talk.
My final thoughts on First Berserker Kazan. wish that I cared more about the story and the characters, but I don't think I've been given much of a chance to care because just of the lack of Ben Starr. And that bums me out. And also, it's not necessarily like the storytelling's incredible anyway, or the voice acting's incredible. It's kind of okay, right? So those are like most of my negative thoughts. I think the gear is a little too unwieldy. I don't know if we needed that aspect of the gear and also leveling up your dude when the returns are so minuscule, but the combat is so good and so responsive and just tight as fuck, and it just feels awesome. It looks great. And once you're kind of getting all these parries down, and once you're getting the timing and the rhythm of these bosses down, you feel like a god. It's just awesome. It's really kind of immediate satisfaction. You hit all those little like brain neurons, and it's like, I feel great right now. I beat that boss, and then it's kind of a spoiler also, but like having Steam achievements on, it'll pop and be like, whenever I get an achievement. And that lets me know that I beat the boss and there isn't an extra phase.
No, for real.
So maybe turn those on, or turn those off. But like,
Dude, I had that yesterday when I beat a boss fight on only either my second or third try. And I was like, certainly that was just phase 1. And then I saw the trophy pop up and I'm like, thank fucking God. I fucking did that shit. Let's fucking
So hold on, I want to talk about that because you're saying turn that off because you want the surprise of maybe there's another phase.
Yeah.
But you're saying leave it on because you're like, I want
I'm
the
saying leave it on
satisfaction of
because,
beating it.
I love that notification.
and usually I think the giveaway for me is knowing how quickly I got through a first phase. And I'll be like, surely there's something else. And it's like, oh, not. Okay, I just popped off there. Awesome. But then there's the times where it's like, whoa, I finally beat that. And the thing doesn't pop. And you're like, oh, fuck. And Kazan walks his sexy ass away with his beautiful hair, his big ass tits. Dude, this guy has massive tits, dude.
Yeah, dude. Big naturals.
This guy has big natties.
Big naturals for sure.
And he walks away, and then you just see like some rumbling and like magic. It's like, oh shit, here we go, phase 2, goddamn. And immediately the first thing that goes to my mind is, first off, how are those tits so big? And then
They're not real.
And then second off, I'm just
God.
oh man, how am I gonna get through that first phase again quicker? But you do, because you just start to learn more and you get better. It's just, I don't know. I love these styles of games.
I remember what I was going to say. It is that we're spoiled, man. I'm playing this game and I'm like, this game is so fucking good. It's so fucking fun. And even as we're reviewing it, right? Like I alluded to it at the beginning of this, there are so many action games that are like leaning in this direction of being a bit Sekiro-like or being a bit Neo-like or being a bit Souls-like or being a bit Elden Ring, right? And if this game came out in like 2014, we'd be talking about Game of the Year, category. But for where we're at, we've gotten so many of these. And like, I'm saying that as a good thing. I'm sure at some point we're going to hit critical mass of, all right, the Soulsborne bubble has popped and now we got to slow down on making so many of these. But as of now, I think we are kind of in the prime of the modern action game. And I want to take a second to just appreciate that. I'm playing this game and I'm like, 8 out of 10. Meanwhile, I'm having some of the most fun. I'm having a fucking fantastic time. And that's just where we're at, where we have games like Dark Souls that have such fantastic level design, right? We have games like Sekiro that have such good combat, or, a game like Lies of P that nailed like atmosphere, nailed like having a unique combat system and all these things. But
there's enough of these bad games to suss them out and be like, these are special for this reason.
Yes.
And it's not that anybody can throw their hat into the ring and suddenly make a good Souls-like. Like there's plenty of bad ones out there.
For sure.
And this one
This is a
definitely
really
stands
good one.
above.
This is a great one, I'll say.
Barrett, how close can you get in on my Steam Deck? This is not you won't be spoiled, by the way. But I just want to show you like this slow ass run cycle. Look at this guy.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
Look at
He's
that.
kinda
Kind of ice skating.
His legs are moving too fast to be moving that slowly. I hate it.
It reminds me of like old school films where they'd have like them like in front of like a moving
Green screen
wall.
and-
Yeah.
That's
It reminds me
very
of
funny.
that one boxer on TikTok who would run in place.
Oh yeah, that dude.
I think I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that guy.
No.
Yeah.
He-
Salt
he-
Pop-
Like
Salt-
he would slow down.
Salt
I think
Pop.
it's-
Was it Salt Poppy? What they?
This
I
is all
forget.
probably the guy that would do like,
No, that's Salt Bay.
of course.
Yeah.
Salt Bay.
How could we mix that up?
All cinematic universe popping off on
It
TikTok.
is Salt Poppy. Yeah. Because he would just run in
Hilarious.
front of his camera and make it look like he was moving his legs, and it was like crazy. And then he would go in a slow
Okay,
motion.
yes, I do know what you're
Yeah.
talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah,
I
yeah.
And
love
then he
those
got
videos.
fit enough that he started like boxing.
He's a sick ass boxer.
That's
yeah.
cool,
Wow.
man.
Yeah.
God. What
It's
a
like the
world we
reverse
live in.
Keith Lee.
I don't know who that is. I just agreed.
You don't know Keith Lee?
Nah.
He's like the food reviewer. 10 out of 10. No? Dang, dude. We got to expose you to some Keith Lee. He was a UFC fighter at first.
Oh.
And now he's like a big TikTok guy. He's like one of the most popular TikTok people. He goes to different cities. He was in SF. He was like, this place is Gotham.
Look up Keith Lee.
Yeah.
All right, well, I don't fuck with him then.
Let us know in the comments below what you're thinking about the first Berserker.
They tried to poison him, Barrett. He's allergic to, what was it, the fish, the shellfish?
Shellfish?
Yeah, he had a shellfish allergy, and like they got some of that in the food. And,
And so that gives a comparison to Gotham.
he wasn't having a good time when he was here. He didn't have a good time.
Let us know in the comments below what you're thinking about this. Has this review got you more hyped? What you're thinking about the state of action games in 2025? And also stay tuned because the stream for Half-Life 2 with RTX is about to begin. I can't wait to see it. It's going to be beautiful. But until next time, love y'all. Goodbye.